When my kids were young, we'd play this game. As between. You know, like little kids. It was always about Disney. So it would be like, as between Peter Pan and Stitch, who would you rather be? Who would you rather hang out with? And we come up with all kinds of stuff. And the kids loved it. And, you know, as between, who is more awesome? Harry Potter or Luke Skywalker? Like crazy stuff. Because, man, these kids got to go to bed, man. I'm just like sick of reading it. And so I've always kind of liked that, like extreme weird comparisons. And so if you look at the screen, I don't even know. I think I was like always. My job is a little bit rough, you know. I mean, if you're like a sensitive person, and you yourself, I can remember Uncle Paul. So Uncle Paul was he would have been actually a great uncle. And this was back in the 1970s, so he was probably in his 80s or 90s. So this guy was born in like the late 1800s. And in Sunnyside, Washington, little town Washington State, in the middle poor area. Back then, man, like it was a nursing home, or it was your family cared for you. And Uncle Paul was kind of a bad person, so he ended up in the nursing home. And that's what everybody said. Like, don't end up there. You just, something wrong. But he was like the first family member my first exposure to nursing homes and like the end of life. And it didn't happen, I mean, you know, even back in the 1970s, it just seemed like there wasn't a lot of people who lived that long or had to experience that. Now, in my job, I'm kind of shocked because it's so prevalent. I'm exposed to it so much, day in, day out, just like crazy. And so sometimes I wonder, is like my perspective obscured? I mean, like jaded? Am I not? And I struggle with that because if I'm not correct, then you should not listen to me. You should just ignore me. If I'm correct, I'm trying to tell you something. And, you know, I get so much pushback from it and resistance. I'm a human being. Like, sometimes I wonder, like, are you completely off base here? I mean, just today, in my work day, so what time is it? It's 10:44 at night. I'm still working. What was wrong with me? Today, earlier, not one, but two clients faced complete estate impoverishment. One, I would say that both of these people, one in particular, you would consider to be higher net worth, one for sure. And they're broke. And I'm like, man, two, it just happens to me. So am I correctly trying to warn you of a danger or overreacting? So look at that thing. So, you know, here's this job I have, and, you know, it's miserable because, not miserable, it's, you know, but I don't like to see people suffer, especially people that I've been hired to protect. I mean, they come to me so late that it's sometimes hard to, I can't work miracles. I'm not a miracle worker, but, so on Instagram, I thought, Instagram's kind of cool. I can make pretty pictures and put them up there. And, you know, so I've been kind of tinkering around with it, and I have no objective really. I mean, to me, it's actually recreation. And so I'm like, wow, you know, like, I'm going to kind of screw with people a little bit. I didn't think that, but it turns out that's what I was doing. And I spent probably 15 seconds on this thing. I didn't really pay that much attention to it. And I posted it on Instagram. So here's what it says. If you had to choose, so this or that, as between Peter Pan and Stitch, as between Luke Skywalker and Harry Potter. It's dumb. It's supposed to be fun, right? We have a hard job, so let's have some fun. If you had to choose dying from a horrible disease, okay, that's a little heavy. If you had to choose dying from a horrible disease, but leaving your wealth to researchers who find the cure, or living a long life wealthy but dying alone and unloved. Those are like, that's not happy, who wants to think about that? However, to me, based on my workday, that's a legitimate question. And, let's just face it. It's a game. It's supposed to be true. It's supposed to get you to think. It's like a mental exercise. And clearly, you're smart. You can see that, and you're like, oh, so he's kind of putting forth a comparison between something really bad happening compared to something really good happening. So dying a horrible disease or living a long life but wealthy. Come on, who doesn't want that? Who wants to die a horrible disease? No one. Oh, and who wants to be wealthy? Everybody. But then I kind of throw this little thing in there, don't I? Like to mix it up. So you die. However, you're charitable and you give something to the world that ends suffering in that particular area. Like most, I don't know what I would choose. I honestly don't. And then the second one, living a long, healthy life, but dying alone and unloved. Look, the only reason I picked that is because I was end of a long day and recreation. I can remember a episode of The Sopranos, HBO movie about the mafia, and the main character's mom was just this horrible person. Just horrible. Oh my God, she was horrible. And she knew she was horrible deep down. And her big fear was that nobody would show up at her funeral, which ended up to be kind of true. And so it's like, wow, this is like really an interesting human moral dilemma for some people. And it was supposed to be fun, And so I posted it thinking, well, and did I use the application right to actually create a pretty picture? Yes or no? That was really my only thing. And it's been a long day, so can we have some fun? Well, if you go to my Instagram account, you can see the whole thing kind of play out. But this person says, I think that there are many in-betweens that most of us live that are not fear-based. Food for thought. I'm like, okay. So, by the way, it's a game. You don't get to change the rules of the game. You have to choose one or the other. That's my point. And what did I say to her? I said, yeah, but then I could try to explain to this person, random person, I don't even know, I should probably look her up. Is she in the mafia? I should be careful. But it's supposed to be fun, right? I'm like, you're tracking, right? And then I said that to her, Peter Pan, Stitch, come on, la, la, la. Let's have some fun. And then she goes on about, clearly she's not the most healthy person, but she accuses me of selling fear. Okay, where I come from, those are fighting words. And I thought to myself, like, if you state a fact, are you selling fear? Or are you trying to warn somebody? And so I pointed out, like, if I said to you, 2/3 of Alzheimer's patients are female and 70% of nursing home residents are female, am I stating a fact or am I selling fear? And oh, by the way, when I post on Instagram, I'm not selling anything. Like, I have no objective other than long day, pretty picture, post. But, we live in a jaded world, man. It's like, you are getting messaging from a lot of different sources and people, and they all are passionate, and you sit back and you go, who can I believe, and who do I want to work with, and this, that, and the other thing. However, I'm like, we have a brain in our head, right? Like, this mindset to me, is counterproductive. Amazingly so. I bet you, in fact, for sure, I know for sure, for a 100% fact, that the cases that I worked on today, the high net worth case, that person made every mistake in the book. And the mental construct that she had during her lifetime with arrogance brought her to her situation. We did the best we could, but at 98 years old, 8 years in a care community, I mean, come on. And so I thought, no, I'm objectively and fairly, I'm right. I feel like I put a lot of energy into that, but here's the problem. This person I'm saying to her, from my perspective, we have a problem in this country. Good people are losing money, which is fine. I mean, people lose money all the time. However, good people who don't deserve it in the last part of their life are losing everything. Now, that sounds like I'm being melodramatic and the sky is falling sort of person. But I think the facts are on my side. And so, I'm Irish American. So, man, there's no flight in me. It's all fight. So now this person is responding to my question. And it was something about, sell hope. Okay, once again, I'm not selling. I mean, like business people sell. In a sense, I'm selling something today, but I wasn't then. So back off on the selling thing. But the thing is, sell hope. Hope is not a plan. Hope is not a plan. Like I hope great things. I hope that we continue to have a world of peace. I hope that we continue to have such a society that, people do well and they have happiness. However, I'm here to tell you that Americans, good people, my mom, your mom, myself someday, maybe if I'm not careful, there's going to be nothing I can leave to my kids because I spent it on high unreimbursed medical costs that are out of control. That to me is a crisis. That's the only thing we should be talking about. And you know something? What turned out to be like a fun little game for me, like a relief from this realization that I have, turned out to be just another reminder that there is like no relief. This is the issue. Which is more important? Making money or protecting it? Like when you're younger, making it, of course. When you get to a certain point, and oh, by the way, you're probably at that point, you need to, the world is upside down. You need to start thinking about protecting the money. And if you don't, and if you're not disciplined to put the effort into it, I hope it turns out well for you, but that is a risk that rationally we would not take. There are 4 categories of risk to your estate. I think the lowest level of risk is just government regulation over expense regarding everything. Like I'm a business owner. I mean, Department of Revenue, Business and Occupation Tax, that is estate erosion. At that 4th category of risk, of assets, of depletion, I also put lawsuits. Like we live in a litigious society. If you own rental property, if you're a business owner, if you are a law firm owner, if you are a medical practice person, you own your own practice, if you are a small business person, I'm here to tell you, I know plaintiffs' attorneys. I'm a lawyer. I went to law school with these people, and some of them are still my friends. When I hear what they say, man, God bless them. They're like Vikings. And I hope everything goes okay. But I can still recall the day I woke up one day and there were fire trucks lined up in front of my house and the rental property across the street was on fire. No kidding. Como Television was there recording it because they happened to get this. So get this. So TV happens to be at the fire station in my neighborhood that's like a block away in Proctor, Tacoma, Washington. I think it's Engine House, maybe 13. And they were interviewing because they were going to shut it down because not enough activity was happening. As they're doing the interview at the fire station, the rental property across the street, a block away, catches on fire. I mean, that's pretty ironic, right? And it was awesome because it was so dramatic. But what the scary thing was, there was a young couple with a young baby that fled from that house on fire. And they were not hurt. But I'm here to tell you, rental property owners think, okay, so if I have an umbrella policy of $1 million general liability, I'm good. I don't need a limited liability company. If a couple with a baby dies in a fire, $1 million isn't going to cover it. 2 weeks ago, I was sitting in my office representing one of the big litigators in our town, and fascinating guy. I mean, these guys, like the really good litigators, the way they think, it's pretty impressive. And there was a incident in which a tree had fallen onto a road and killed a person in a car. And by the time, no one it was like a tragedy. It was an act of God. It was horrible. By the time this litigator got done with them, over an $8 million settlement. Not a judgment, not a jury trial, not going to trial, but $8 million because a litigator has a mind and he's going to go. And one thing I try to tell people when they think about asset protection is like, dude, man, stop coming up with reasons why you think you're safe. You have the wrong mindset. That's going to get you in big trouble. Here's the question you should be asking yourself. Do litigators care what I think? Does a plaintiff's attorney give one iota about my rationalization about umbrella policy? This became very apparent to me when a person rolled into my office one day, a listener, and she had been sued, rental property owner, and somebody had been injured on one of her properties. The claim was for $5 million, and her umbrella policy was only $1 million. And all of the assets that she held, like these rental properties, were in her name outright. Who does that? I mean, oh my God, that would taught you nothing. But that's level 4. That's like litigation, risk of assets from the law, like people after you. Now, so the third category, so fourth would be the lowest. The third category is like, I think, family mismanagement. Fourth category, like my son is, in my career, I've seen parents sacrifice their retirement dollars to send their kids to a private school in California for art. That's one form of kind of mismanagement, poor judgment. Another form would be my son is I've had a handful of clients lose substantial amount of money because they made an investment in a child's business that failed. Of course, the child, like, oh, promise, pay it back, promissory note. It's unsecured. You thought emotionally, bad judgment. But more importantly, sometimes family members who run decision-making commit fraud, or they mismanage, or they don't know what they're doing. Or sometimes people spend a lot of money bailing out family members who are mentally ill or drug addicted or just irresponsible with money. And so family mismanagement, either by yourself or investment in people who, wasn't the best choice, substantial loss. Here's another form of family mismanagement. One spouse is the person that's really into investing, runs the accounts, knows everything. The other spouse doesn't care, not interested. Other things. Well, guess which spouse dies first? Guess which spouse becomes incapacitated? I can see so clearly the last three cases in the last 5 years in which there was rage and tears from the surviving spouse, realizing that they actually had assets and way more money than she had been led to believe, because it was kept secret. And then when the spouse who managed the assets passed away, there was so much stress related to, what do we own? What are the accounts? What are the passwords? What do I do? What is an annuity? What are these investment styles, asset classes? I don't know anything about it. Why is it so complicated? Why did we invest that way? I call that continuity plan, by the way. I mean, look, this is important stuff. Like, when you're in retirement, the most important thing that you can do other than having fun with your family is making sure that the money lasts. And it just kind of freaks me out how casual people are about that. They just, don't put energy into it. And so continuity, asset protection is actually about, like, let's communicate and let's make sure everybody knows what they're doing, right? The second category would definitely be tax. Like, estate tax is an issue. Washington State has the highest tax there is for estate tax, over $2 million. It's up to 20%. That's a problem. And we can spend a little bit of money and a little bit of effort to completely eliminate tax in some cases, or substantially reduce it. And it just freaks me out that, for higher net worth people, over $2 million in net worth, you know how much money they spend and pay without even knowing it to financial advisors every year? Like, what's 1% of $2 million every single year? And to avoid a substantial estate tax, either because they don't know about it or it's whatever mental block they have, is irresponsible, financially irresponsible. Of course, category 1, asset protection, is complicated because what have I talked about? Protection from litigation, protection from government over, regulation and expenses. I've talked about family mismanagement. I've talked about taxes. I think you could throw into that, not market risk. I can't prevent the stock market from declining, but managing your assets to reduce unnecessary expenses to financial advisors, but also a plan for the investment style to continue. Like you really want to be awesome, finally figure out how to run your money and then leave it to your 35-year-old son to run for the benefit of your wife who doesn't know a stock from a mutual fund, right? It's crazy. But the big one is unreimbursed medical expenses in old age. OMG. Nothing like that is so much more significant and so much more probable. It's crazy. And so I just want to throw it out there. We've talked about the problem. The problem really is those 4 tiers. Always think about asset protection in those 4 levels. And if you get it wrong, imagine running out of money during your lifetime or leaving your surviving spouse with not enough money for his or her retirement, let alone, like most of my clients want a legacy, something to pass on. So there's some moving parts here. And, this person on Instagram who was kind of, clearly this is a person in denial, and who knows what this person's agenda was. And she's probably a nice person, but face to face over coffee, we'd be great friends. However, hope is not, when it comes to this, hope is not a plan. It's counterproductive. It's not like I just don't feel like I'm being unreasonable and unrealistic when I'm trying to warn you about it. And so there you go. That is just what I view as the modern levels of threat as related to your retirement that are critically important.